Yo, this is amazing. That's like really important. Okay, I guess I'm gonna do it. Yes. Here's my little dude. No, don't go away. Okay, alright. I think the people in the lab are gonna be really happy that
Oh, cool.
Oh my gosh, look, they framed the poster that I gave her. Oh my god, that's amazing.
What are you looking for?
I'm just looking for like a cage like this that doesn't have any writing on it. I'm just gonna put it in here. Don't go, don't escape, please don't escape. Ah, do not escape. Don't escape. Go back. No, I don't want to crush your legs. Okay. I'm just gonna leave you there for now. Wow, beautiful little dude. He looks really hungry. So there's this like silly story that I like to tell when I collect insects. I read this in Darwin's autobiography. He was saying that when he was a little kid, he used to collect bugs a lot. And there's this one time where he saw this beetle, so he grabbed it with one hand. And then he saw another beetle, and he grabbed it with his other hand. And then he saw a third beetle that was on a tree, and he put one of the beetles in his mouth, and then he grabbed the beetle that was on the tree, and apparently the beetle like bit him or something in his mouth. But I just think it's funny because like I would have done the same thing. Like, you know, you can never be too dedicated when it comes to collecting bugs.
Wait.
Oh my god. Little dude. That's crazy. I guess there's like all different flavors. I wonder. That one's like really mild. Interesting. So there's like so much variation. Yeah, this one is like super mild. Cool, man. I love these plants.
But I don't know like how I discovered science illustration as a thing. I guess I just like started like incorporating more scientific stuff into my work. Cause like, and also it's interesting, right? Because I feel like I picked biology over another science because biology produces so many beautiful things. Like, in my opinion, more so than chemistry or physics. Like, I'm really into, like, crazy, like, natural patterns. Like, patterns that could only be produced by nature. It's so complex, so detailed, so interesting, it's awesome. That complexity kind of, like, informs my artwork, you know what I mean? And vice versa. My artwork, or my taste in art kind of informs what I study. Here at the museum, I'm actually working on 2 different projects. The first one, I'm revising the illustrations for a field guide of mammals of Borneo, which is really exciting, and it's like, that's something I've wanted to do for a really long time. And then the other thing that I'm doing also is pretty interesting. I'm dissecting and then illustrating the genitalia of a certain genus of moths that live in Hawaii. The genus is called Philodoria, and they're these really tiny moths called leaf miners. So they actually, the larva makes these little trails inside the leaves, and that's how you can identify them in the field. But they're really tiny. Some of them are only like a millimeter long. So this is what I do. So I guess I can show you some specimens. So like, if you look in here, this is actually good. I don't know if you see that thing, it's the moth right there. And see those, like these 2 dots in each little bubble? Mm-hmm. One of the dots is like the abdomen, and the other one is the actual genitalia. But so what I have to do, since they're really small, you can't always like look at their wings to identify them. That's not always like the best way to tell like what species a certain specimen belongs to. So what's really helpful is actually looking at the genitalia. And so what I have to do is dissect them and like kind of display them in a slide in a way that makes it really easy for me to illustrate. Yeah, so if you look in here, you can see that's the male genitalia. So you gotta to make this special instrument, like it's so high tech. I just took an insect pen like that, and then I just bent the tip of it, and then put it on here. So I guess the process of dissecting it, basically what I'll do is I'll take off the abdomen of the moth and then cook it in potassium hydroxide, and then bring it back to my slide and take off some of the scales and other extraneous like membranes and things like that. And then I'll actually take the genitalia out of the abdomen and manipulate it in a way that shows all the structures that I want to illustrate. You do this to, like, I don't know, it does something with the pressure, but it makes the lid actually go on the whole way. If you don't have this pin, it just pops out. Or a big influence on my drawing was, like, I would look at, like, magazines, and then I would flip them over so that they would be, like, unrecognizable because they're upside down, and then I would just try to draw it like that, and I think that really helped me, like, hone in on my, like, photocopying ability, you know what I mean? Because, like, a big part about drawing, or at least with, like, illustration, is trying to see it for what it really is, not what you think it is, you know what I mean? So, like, trying to look at an object with, like, lines and shapes and shadows and highlights and things like that, instead of, like, okay, this is a nose, like, L, you know, these are lips, like, outline of lips, outline, you know, so I tried not to do that, or I learned how to not do that after, like, copying stuff a million times. So I'm working on a poster for a show. My roommate has a friend who lives in Japan, and he, like, books tours for a bunch of different bands from the US and UK. And so he's putting on a show in May in Japan, and he saw my art and he asked me to do the flyer for it. So I'm doing that. And it's kind of like the show itself is a combination of bands from two different labels, and so, like, one of them is called Cut the Tension and one of them is called Dog Nights. So I kind of decided to take those two ideas, like dogs and, like, cutting and scissors, and kind of blend them together. So I'm drawing this dog. It's actually a type of terrier. It's I don't know, it's a border terrier. Yeah, and it's kind of, like, exploded, so you have, like, certain chunks of it that are neatly sliced, so you can see different parts of cross sections of the dog's body. And I haven't drawn the face yet, but I want him to have, like, a really happy, like panting kind of, like, silly dog face or whatever. This is the dog that this picture is going to be based off of. It's the guy who owns the record label, his dog. But this is the first full scale drawing I've done with my left hand, because I've had tendonitis in my right hand since around December, and I haven't really been drawing that much because I just feel like I can't. I mean, I've been doodling a little bit, and I've been drawing on the computer, like, using a tablet for the past couple weeks with my left hand, but I haven't done like a physical pen and ink drawing since, the last time I worked on something like this was in December, and I miss it a lot, but my arm and my hand and on the right side, like, haven't really been getting better, and I feel like I feel so bad, like, when I don't make art, like, when I'm not currently, like, constantly working on a project, because I feel like I have nothing to show for myself. Like, I feel like I need to be working on something to, like, constantly reaffirm my identity, you know, because it's, like, otherwise, like, what's the point? Like, what am I doing? What am I producing, you know? And I guess, like, I don't really have an excuse to not make art, you know? Like, so my right hand is out of commission, but I have another hand, so, like, it just takes some time to learn how to do it. Illustration, everything I do with drawing is solving problems. It's like, okay, you have a poster for a band that you need to make. It needs to, like, communicate this mood. It needs to, like, incorporate the elements of dogs and scissors, so figure that out. and I need to have this text and figure out how to lay it out and everything. So I'm like, okay, I have these problems, let's solve this problem in a cool way. But then with scientific illustration, it's even more parameters, and it's really interesting because like it's not always what I'm doing is just photocopying. I'm not just like directly translating like what I see onto the paper, but I'm actually abstracting it in a way that makes it even more understandable than reality, which is pretty cool, or then more understandable than a picture, which is a direct photocopy of something. But that's the same kind of thing. I'm working under these parameters and I'm trying to solve problems in a way that makes it like easy for the audience to understand. But definitely illustration, both of those worlds, like both the editorial and the scientific, those are very different than like weird doodles that I'll make in my sketchbook, because there's no parameters there. Like that's just, that's the only parameter is like what I create like in my head. I have this really cool tool that I like to use called Camera Lucida, which is really awesome. It's like an extension you can put on your microscope so that one eye actually looks at the specimen that you're dissecting, and then the other eye looks at a mirror that looks at another mirror that looks at where your hand is. So your hand is drawing on this paper, but both of the eyes form and make this like binocular singular image, and it looks like your hand is actually tracing the specimen. So if I can get the specimen to like stay still in the glycerin and it's not like rotating or anything, I can get it perfectly where I need it to be, then I can quickly like trace it on the paper and get all like the details and like outlines of stuff that I need. And then I have that drawing, and then I scan it, and then I finish it up on the computer. So that's what I'm doing here in this room. Being an artist, like being called an artist, isn't as important as actually making the art. With art, like the process of making art is way more important than the actual finished product that I have. Like, I mean, it's nice to like see this big like collection of stuff that I made and be like, wow, I did that, that's awesome, it looks really good. But the actual like process of making it is really, really cool too. Like I feel like I get in such a meditative state when I do it. Like just like putting ink on paper is really calming to me. I feel like my blood pressure just goes down, and like my heart rate goes down, and I get really like breathe really slowly. At one point it took me a lot of time or a lot of effort to like sit down and focus on like doing this monotonous like dot making for like 8 hours at a time. Like I definitely had to work up to that. Like I would definitely get super distracted, and when I first started and be like, God, I can't make these lines anymore. Like I gotta do something else. But like getting into that state is like really rewarding. Like when you come out of it, like a good analogy is like, you ever play Tetris for a long time and then you walk around and you're like, ooh, that could fit in there, and ooh, like that book fits right in that crevice, like, and that's kind of what drawing for a really long time is. Like you like look up in the paper and everything is translatable into shade and light and like lines and stuff, and I don't know, it's a cool thing that happens. The meditation aspect doesn't necessarily need to come from generating ideas constantly. And I don't even think that when I'm doing illustration, I'm necessarily like doing like constantly having like this original thought constantly, you know what I mean? So much of the editorial stuff that I've been doing, like the posters and like illustrations for the fine print, so much of that is like I'll come up with an idea first, and then the execution is the meditative part. The execution is dots or lines, or like translating and like looking up references and like actually forming the picture itself. And so here I already have all the ideas like already set out. Like I already know everything that I need to do. So then I can just totally just sit back and like let the meditative part happen. I think it's really intrinsically valuable just to have skill, you know what I mean? Just to like work on getting better at something for its own sake. That's like really valuable when you can see the progress that you've made. Like when I look at the stuff I made a year ago, it's like, wow, like I feel like I'm so much better now. But it's not because of like a acclaim thing. It's not like a respect thing. It's just like, I don't know. It's just an important part of who I am.